us here today. Good practice yesterday. Good film review. Feel like we're healing up. Feel like a lot of guys that were initially banged up in that game seem to be in really pretty decent health. So really thankful to the fans that came out, endured a little bit of weather early on, and turned out being a really nice day for football. Appreciate them being there and looking forward to them coming out this Saturday and making Autzen a really special environment like they always do. So looking forward to seeing them, looking forward to beginning conference play. It means a lot to our players, our fan base, our university. I got a good team coming into town, so preparation is in full gear. And with that being said, questions.
We'll start with James Krupia from the Oregonian.
Mario, just the latest on Anthony. Will he be able to go this week? Same with KT, Mace, Braden, Keith, Ajax, all the guys on the edges who were out this past week.
So you said Anthony, Kayvon, Mace, who else? Keith
And Braden.
Okay. Yeah, I feel good about Anthony. Looks really good. Kayvon's getting better and better. So still day to day with him. Mace looks better. He's day to day, but feel good about him. Stephen Jones is good. You didn't mention him, but I know you guys probably saw him. He got a little bit dinged up in the game. He's good. Keith Brown looks good. He practiced yesterday, and again, he was available come game time. We were just being a little bit cautious with him. Braden might be out for another week. Not sure yet, but he's the one that I would say is doubtful.
Alvaro Torres, end zoners.
Hi, Coach. Sorry. Hi, Coach Cristobal. I hope you have a good day and a good training. Well, my question is: you're entering your conference season still undefeated and in the top 4. Leading into the season, were you expecting to be in this position at this point?
Well, we expect to get better every week, and the goal is always to be 1-0. We feel like there's progress, obviously, in the 1-0 part, and there's certainly progress in a lot of areas of our game, but we certainly have to continue to improve in others. We've invested a ton of time in that, almost like there's a gap in there that we got to fill because we started fast and we've closed out games well. Somewhere in the middle, we're not up to our standard, and we've been focusing on that and trying to get the result that we want by focusing on the process. But all in all, we're in a solid position, and one that we, have the opportunity to improve on Saturday.
Zach Neal, Ducks Wire.
Coach, Travis Dye said on Saturday that he felt one of Oregon's problems is a tendency to play down to the opponent early in the game. Is there something that the coaching staff is doing schematic-wise to try and combat that going forward?
Well, I don't think it's schematic, and it's not the plays. It's the way that you run them. Technique, fundamentals, intensity in the calls themselves, and then the way they're executed is what it comes down to. So we take that as a whole, as an entire program, coaches and players, and it's something that obviously we're not pleased with because it's not up to our standard, but something that we're working on.
Burke Scopel, 247 Sports.
A lot of youth at will on Saturday against Stony Brook, Coach. Just curious on how you thought everybody played there. Some guys were kind of playing some of the first big snaps in real game time there.
Yeah, we got a little bit thin at the position, but I thought all those guys played well. Jeffrey Bossa, credit to him being unselfish and coming over from the safety and nickel position and helping us out in there. Jabril was in there. I know Noah and both Nate. I mean, they go in there, they flop around a little bit. Just thought all Micah Roth jumping in there, getting significant playing time. So they've battled hard. They've learned the position fairly well enough where we trusted all those guys to play in there. And we feel like they're improving. We feel like as the weeks go on, these guys are going to be really, really good football players. But right now they're in tune. They know what they're doing. They know how we're doing it. And we expect a steady improvement. And for those guys, for us as a defense, not to have a drop off regardless of who we put in there. And that's one thing that we've made a decision a long time ago is, I get it, injuries happen and you might have some really good players go down, but you certainly cannot allow the level of play and performance to decline. And that's on all of us. We got to coach it really well. We got to call it well. And then when we're in there, we got to play well. Because if you came here, you came to play at Oregon. If you came here as a coach, you came here to coach at Oregon, and we got to uphold a certain standard.
Matt Preem, 247 Sports. Can't hear you, Matt. Are you muted? You're something wrong with your system. We're going to jump on to Jared Denny. You try to fix your system.
Hey Mario, with Nate at linebacker, just how pivotal has he been with so many young guys in there, having been in the program so long, and what does it mean for a local guy to come in here as a walk-on and kind of having the impact that he's had?
Yeah, great team player. Guy walked on here, earned a scholarship because of his play, because of his just role as a teammate, always doing the right thing, pushing others to be better, having a positive impact on others, and then going out there, being called upon in critical situations last year and this year, and performing well. So really blessed and happy to have Nate here with us. Really proud of him for the way he's playing, and he's just going to keep getting better and better as the season goes on.
Matt, you fixed?
I should be good.
Go ahead.
You got me?
Yep.
All right. Mario, your chance to assess Ty and Jay now after having some game reps and just having the film too of how do they perform at quarterback?
Yeah, they were solid, very small sample size to really take a huge dive into performance. But what sticks out first and foremost is elimination of any errors, mental and physical. Very cool when they went in there, unfazed, just like practice, with the adversity that we present these guys in practice, and the pace at which we practice really paid off because they went in there and they looked at home. And so a lot of confidence in both those guys. Those guys are two really, really good football players with bright futures.
James.
Mario, in terms of the communication up front from the ones on the offensive line, both in blitz pickup and on some of those stunts and whatnot that you referenced after the game, how do you feel about the ability to correct that now going up against an Arizona team that their defensive coordinator is known as Dr. Blitz? He's a guy who blitzes probably as much or more than anyone in the country. And if they do have one calling card early, it's that they do generate some pressure in the backfield.
Yeah, the pressure issues are fixable. One was a simple short that didn't get carried out, did not get passed all the way down to the tackle, or actually the tackle should have made the short himself. The other two guys got it in a 3-man short. The other one caught in a twist and a pressure that was a little bit more difficult to pass off. I'm talking about the two before half that ended up being a problem. And just the angles were real flat. We didn't get a hand on the first guy. The penetrator created an issue, put us on different levels, and there was a sack. So very fixable stuff that we have done well before. The challenge this week is, two different personnel groupings that are very different in what they do out of them. 4-2 package, a 3-3 package. They jump in a bear. They jump into the odd front, odd wide, heavy fronts. They'll take 4 guys, kick them over to one side and give you a really unorthodox look to only stun out of that and present problems, rule issues, protection issues. So got to be at our very best, got to study them thoroughly, and got to have a good plan because they do affect the quarterback. They do get a lot of penetration and create negative plays in the run game as well. They force bad plays. They've got some really good players up front. Their linebacker is a really good player as well. Sideline to sideline player, but also a downhill player in the run game. Very explosive, good tackler. They'll press you up out there on the perimeter and give you some different looks. Hard to tell what they're doing from a coverage standpoint. They mix it up so well. So when you combine all those things and that front that brings so much pressure and movement, they present some challenges that you have to be really prepared for.
Alvaro.
In four out of the last 5 years, you started off your season 3-0 and lost the next game. What will you say are the main challenges for your team going forward, and what are the main adjustments you would say you need to make after these first 3 games?
Oh, I don't think the previous seasons have any true bearing on an opponent this year. I think every week is different, and you have to approach that process in a manner that you feel gives you the best chance to win. And I think every year we've learned and gotten a little bit better in a lot of different areas, and we expect to continue to do that and continue to get better results.
Eric Scopel.
Coach, how would you, now having seen 3 games, how would you assess your kick and punt coverage and your kick and punt return units?
Yeah, punt coverage has improved dramatically. Kickoff coverage has improved in spurts. Part of it is kicking the ball into the end zone and forcing touchbacks, a large percentage of that. Some other, I'd say we've done okay, solid at times. There's some, we have our missiles that are responsible for just causing all kinds of issues for return teams in the way that they set points and two gap on the run and take back. There's no longer a wedge in the kickoff return team, but it looks like it, right? Guys are just stacked behind each other instead of side by side. So the physicality has to improve, recognition of a return as well, understanding when you're running down the field and going 100 miles per hour, that there are going to be indicators that dictate as to where the ball is going to go. We have played a lot of young guys on there because we have been, number one, they've earned it. And number two, with the lack of depth at certain positions, those guys have to get good at it. So I feel like those areas, they've really improved through time, effort, personnel, some adjustments schematically that allow us to cause some confusion for teams. And I think protection has been really good. Tom has punted the ball really well. Cam has kicked the ball really well also. So all in all, there's improvement and we still have miles to go.
Matt.
Last year, Mario, you guys were -9 in turnover margin, and this year you're third in the country at 7 and over 2 a game. What do you attribute just the defense being able to get the ball back, and offensively, I think you only have 1 turnover all year through 3 games. I know it's a small sample size, but it's a pretty good flip from last year.
It's a good start. We always talk about turnovers and penalties. We were doing good in penalties until this past game. We had a couple too many, which is not good enough. The one fumble that we have had this year, ironically, was on a screen pass while setting up. Really strange way to actually have a ball come out. So we have invested a significant amount of time, poured ourselves into not turn the ball over in 2020. We did a poor job of hanging onto the ball. I believe, I don't want to say the exact percentage, but it was in the 15-16% of the time where some of our drives would end up in a turnover, whether it be on downs or coughing the ball up or throwing an interception. So Coach Moorhead, the entire Coach Mastro, Coach McClendon, all those guys, Coach Williams done a great job emphasizing the importance of ball security and how to tuck that thing away. And then Anthony's done a great job with his decision making and making sure he doesn't put the ball in the defender's laps. And then on defense, Coach DeRuiter, his system, his scheme, presents some issues where balls are going to be thrown your way. And the nature of it as well, and the way we call it, the way Ken Wilson coaches those linebackers, Coach Joe up front, all those guys, Coach Yates, very aggressive, trying to get the ball back all the time. So far it's been positive for us. We just got to continue, improving that week by week.
Max Torres, Ducks Digest.
Coach, kind of staying on what Matt was talking about for a second. When you brought Tim on, he said he wanted to focus on turning the ball over, forcing turnovers, and that's been a strong suit for you guys. Through 3 games, heading into Pac-12 play here, what are some areas of improvement that you want to focus on for this defense?
Yeah, we want to knock back the run better. There were, periods of time in that second quarter, end of the first quarter, we didn't play the run like we had played it in the first half the previous week, or all but be it one play in week 1. We really did a good job controlling the line of scrimmage, controlling our gaps, setting points, setting edges. We didn't set the edge very well on Saturday. And again, like 2 polar opposites in the second quarter, largely responsible for the 190 yards they had in the first half of offense. In the third quarter, you got 6 total yards on 10 plays. And it starts up front. The complete difference was the way we were playing up front. So, playing in the trenches, it's about being on edge and staying on edge. And we got to challenge our guys all the time. That's not going to stop, the emphasis in practice is always going to start with that at the beginning, right when we're done with Indy, with block destruction, making sure that we understand how important it is to play with explosiveness, with power, to play with a lot of physicality. So we need to get better returns on that.
James.
Mario, last year you guys really did very well in the middle 8. And I know it's, again, small sample size. You had the 1 score with Fresno, but then they drove right back. The past 2 weeks, you had opportunities before half. You put yourself in the position to do it. A penalty. This past week, there was a penalty on the earlier drive, but then obviously the sacks there before halftime. You do capitalize to start the second, though. So how do you kind of evaluate an area that you did very well last year and you offered yourself some opportunities, but you just haven't fully capitalized just yet?
Got to close it out. A little bit of the same stuff that we mentioned earlier about filling those gaps, like that second quarter gap where we just weren't playing with the same level of intensity and execution that we started off. And we've done some really good things in, moving the ball in opening drives, but not quite closing them out. And then, like you mentioned, moving the ball at the end of the half in a penalty or a negative play, hurting you. Same thing on the opening drive of the second half. Now, the stuff surrounding that has been really good. It's been really positive. So you want to hit on all cylinders. It's certainly something we talk about and focus on. I feel like we have a really good plan for adjustments at halftime and really from series to series, right? I mean, the way football is nowadays, I mean, you have to, right? You're getting something different sometimes on a down per down basis. So certainly an area of improvement, and we need to get better at it. It's the bottom line.
Max.
Coach, talk about that offensive line rotation. You're seeing guys like Dawson and Steven get a lot of reps here. When you're looking on the other side of the ball, we had guys like Swaba getting in with that rotation. How do you feel like the depth is coming along on the defensive line so far?
Oh, we need more. You know, it's coming along. I'm proud of Swab. Got in there, did a nice job while he was in there. As you guys know, I mean, it's been a really crazy year with injuries, guys getting banged up or whatnot. So, you know, our roster is getting to a point where it's certainly a lot better than it has been in previous years with depth, but we're not where we need to be from a depth standpoint. We need a lot more players, and we need to keep developing the players that we have. But for guys like him, you know, he's really developed and worked hard to put himself in that position. Jason Jones is playing better. Jason has to continue cutting weight so he could be explosive, snap to whistle, to the echo of the whistle on a down by down basis. Saw some really good things from Keanu Williams this past game. Play with power, explosiveness, heavy hands. You can expect to see more from him. Christian has done some really good stuff, has to continue to improve as well, but really pleased with the way he's been progressing. Jabril was an edge guy, jumped in at inside linebacker because that's what he played in high school for the most part. You know, I could go on and on. You know, proud of Trevin. Trevin went out there and he was a little bit beat up, but he found a way to fight through. Jake Shipley's had some bright moments and then has to play with a lot more discipline and consistency. So we're all over those guys. They know. And what I'm telling you is nothing that we don't tell ourselves. We have to play with much more consistency and demand a lot more of ourselves and play with more power up front to be the team that we want to be.
Depending on the length of the question, we have time for one or two more. James.
Mario, you lauded Johnny for his blocking last week, and he does it on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the blocking at receiver outside of him and maybe Hudson at a couple of points? Because it seems like all three games there's been opportunities missed because of some issues there.
It's been hit and miss. There have been some guys that have done better than others. I know Coach McClellan hammers those guys and works those guys daily on that. There have been some bright moments and certainly areas for improvement is the best way to describe it, but it's been inconsistent.
Last question, Matt.
Kind of staying along those lines. Did Troy Franklin come out okay? I know he took that hit, but he did have one of those downfield blocks that probably James was referencing where he cleared the contact for it.
Yeah, he did. But no, he was good. He was good yesterday and seems to be ready to roll. So certainly if there's anything else to update on him, I'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Go Ducks.